I'll dress it up. Sam Westerman did not do his part. So.
Okay, here is book 24 notes.
Don't say his name. TV.
Go.
Alright, so Hermes comes to collect the souls of all the dead suitors, and they go into the underworld where Achilles and Agamemnon are arguing over whose death is more heroic. Very interesting argument. And they ask the suitors, who are now parading in the underworld, how so many noble men died at once. And they claim it's because of Penelope's treachery. Meanwhile, Odysseus goes to visit his father, who at first doesn't recognize him. The goddess, Rumor, goes around the city spreading the news, and the suitors' parents are unhappy about it. They decide to attack Odysseus on the Regis farm, but Athena, disguised as Mentor, stops it. And it's over, and everyone's happy. And there it is.
Sending it to you.
Peace.
So as we scroll up, we'll find here the different themes. The theme that I worked on was hero hospitality.
Hospitality.
And
Have you received it?
I found different quotes about hospitality. I found different quotes about hospitality. One of them was when Odysseus was testing his father to see if he recognized him. And he said he was kind of speaking in third person, being kind of like a king that hosted Odysseus, or himself. So I thought that was hospitality, because it was an example of hospitality. And then there are others like Odysseus inviting Dalius to dinner on page 480, where he says, "Sit down to your food, old friend." Everything goes along the lines of that.
Alright, I guess it's my turn. It's pretty exciting. Okay.
No, yeah. There you go.
This is trickery. I did trickery. If you look in your books on page 472, lines 142, 144, there's a quote. "Young men, my suitors, now that Odysseus is no more, go slowly, keen as you are to marry me." That was said by Penelope, and obviously Penelope is tricking and misleading all the suitors. And that might have been what ultimately allowed Odysseus to pull off his blood wedding. And that's quote can be found on page 475 and
Oh my gosh, stop touching me.
One at a time, guys.
page 475 in your books on lines 265 through 266. This was Odysseus' thoughts, I believe. Test the old man first. Reproach him with words that cut him to the core. And here Odysseus is trying to test his father to see if he remembers him first before introducing himself. So I guess he's trying to see. This is a trick. I mean, it's hard to say if it's for the good or for the bad, but it's definitely a case of trickery. Page 484 in your books, ladies and gentlemen. Lines 554 to line 555. And now, taking the build and voice of Mentor, Zeus's daughter, Athena, marched right in. So Athena is disguising herself to be just your average, everyday, normal Joe. And disguise is obviously a case of trickery. So, yeah. Yeah, and that's a perfect segue to our next theme, heroism. Never mind. It's a perfect segue to our fate and free will.
Alright, okay. So, heroism in book 24. So, on page 469, lines, oh my gosh, what are you doing? So, on page 469, lines 25 to 38, you commanded such a powerful host of men on the fields of Troy, where we suffered, but you were doomed to encounter fate so early. Achilles is recalling acts of heroism that he and Agamemnon accomplished at Troy, but they are now both dead. And they are talking about how wonderful they were and how they were accomplishing so much.
They're arguing over
How
who
they
was
were
greater.
wonderful. Yes. And page 480. If I had been young in arms last night in our house with harness on my back, standing beside you, fighting off the suitors, how many I would have cut on the knees from under, the heart inside you would have leapt for joy. And this is after Laertes is reunited with his son, Odysseus. He is lamenting not being young and present with him during the blood wedding, and not having been able to kill many people, which would have been very touching. And on page 484, it's 573 to 586, he, Laertes, lifted a prayer to mighty Zeus's daughter, Athena. He brandished his spear a moment, winked it fast, and hit. Okay. He pierced his bronze-sided helmet that failed to block the bronze point tearing through. Down Eupeithes crashed, his armor clanging against his chest. They, Odysseus and Laertes, would have killed them all. And this is Laertes. Laertes is throwing a spear at one of the suitors. Not only kills him, but goes straight through his head and his helmet. Very, very heroic, brutal. Yes.
So
Yeah.
this was book 24. We hope you enjoyed our presentation. Sadly,
Yeah.